Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the delay. Thank you all for being here tonight. We are going to resume the regular meeting of the Suffern Central School District Board of Education for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. May the record reflect that all board members are present. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item 1.06, or 1.07 is our student report. Talijah, welcome back. We missed you.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't here last time. I was in the middle of the game and I was going to try to rush over, but by the time the game ended, it was way too late. But I'm back. I'm dressed in my senior penny because the boys basketball team just had their senior game, which I just checked. They won by like 40 points. So, that's really good for them. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. So tomorrow is the third winter concert of the winter season. So there's going to be a lot of people participating tomorrow. I'm going to go see my friend perform actually. So that should be a lot of fun. Tonight there was a college info meeting for freshmen, all from freshmen to the junior class parents. And I know a lot of people went there to find out about resources to get into college, how to get into college, like scholarships, all the type of things like that. Speaking of scholarships, the seniors at Suffern just had a meeting about scholarships that are offered at Suffern. And I learned a whole lot that I did not know about scholarship. And I'm currently going through that and figuring that out and filling out those forms. Another sports update. Both the boys and girls are ranked 8th in the section. So that's good for us too. Yeah. Even though we just lost 3 games in a row, it's fine. It's all right. It's all right. Yeah. We have a game Thursday, so that should be a fun one. I think Tuesday the 11th, the Board of Elections are having seniors register to vote for seniors that are eligible. So that would be a lot of fun. I have to register too. So, now that they're 18, I can do that. I think I could do it on 17, but, great opportunity for me to do that. So all day, seniors in their history class will be brought down and be able to register to vote. Wednesday the 12th is a speech and debate tournament for, I think, a lot of schools around in the county and outside of the county. And also the 12th is the Here's a Cool Kids training at Ramapo College. It's going to be the third and last one, well, for me. And it's the last one of the Here's a Cool Kids season for the 2024-2025 season. With Valentine's Day coming up next week, there's a lot of fundraisers going on. Our Honor Society are selling cards that they made during class of 2025. We're raising money. I'm part of it. We're raising money by selling cupcakes and donuts. Also Operation Smile is selling, I believe, donuts that week as well, earlier on in the week. What else? Another sports update. I know that the Milrose Games is happening soon for the boys track team. They made it to, they qualified from Milrose Games at the Armory. So that's a lot of fun. And I think that's it. Yeah, we're doing good so far. That's all I have for today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Talijah. And you'll be able to vote in this year's Board of Education election in May. Yeah. So very exciting. Okay, our next item is 1.08 minutes of the regular meeting of January 21st, 2025. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Very good. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Mr. Kern, second. Mr. Frazier, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes, I abstain.
Okay, Mr. Shapiro abstains. And now superintendent's comments.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the board meeting. Tonight, we have not just one presentation, but 2 presentations. We're going to go ahead and start off by welcoming Mr. Andy Guccione, our Director of Athletics, Physical Education, and Health, to the podium. He is going to be sharing with the board some updates with regards to our athletics program and talking about some of the new initiatives that he has within his department, things that we're really excited about that will expand opportunities for our students. So Mr. Guccione, go ahead and take it away. I'm going to suggest to our board members that are here on the front, because we don't have the back projector going, maybe we should swing over into the audience. Mr. Guccione.
Thank you, Dr. Gunderson. First off, Talaja had mentioned they lost 3 games in a row, but they were to Alberta's and they were to Pearl River and Ursuline, 3 of the very top teams in the section. And overall, girls basketball teams had a very strong year. So just want to emphasize that. Okay, thank you for giving me a little time tonight to make a short presentation on the athletics report. We're going to focus mostly on participation, but I am going to throw some other tidbits of information in with regards to a review from last year and some of the other exciting things that are going on in the program. So this is our department vision. So we worked with a panel that included Jenny Mermelstein and Sarah Kern and Dr. Gunderson and the assistant ADs. We went out in the community and got feedback from the community and from our coaching staff to put together this department vision. And pretty much everything we're doing moving forward for the next 3 to 5 years are going to be focused on this and accomplishing this for our program. So here's all the teams that we offer. Just of note, this year we added a modified boys volleyball program. So we had 2 years of intramurals at the middle school, and now added an official modified program. We and 4 other programs in Section 1 were the only teams that all added it this year. We all competed against each other. We had almost 20 students on the roster. Dustin Price coached it, did a really nice job, and I think that it will really help to build our boys volleyball program and kind of keep us a little bit ahead of the curve. One other thing I want to mention is we added modified indoor track 2 years ago. And the coaches there are Jason Flack and Lauren Lofberg. They've done an outstanding job. And with the help of Jeff Dempsey in coordination with Section 1 this year, Section 1, if you don't know, is Rockland, Westchester, Dutchess, and Putnam counties. Jeff Dempsey worked with them to put together 3 indoor track meets at RCC this year for the modified teams. Everyone had maybe about 15 teams there. It was an exciting event for the kids, and it was a nice way to build our winter track program. Okay, so these are some of I'm just going to list some of our accomplishments from last year. Here are some of our team accomplishments: our 6 league champions, our 4 Section 1 champions. We had 2 regional champions. Our girls lacrosse team had a great season and lost in the state semifinal game. And in New York State champions, of course, were our ice hockey team last year. Here's some of our other team accomplishments. So 32 varsity teams earned the New York State Scholar Athlete Team Award. You have to have a percentage of your team achieving 90% or higher on your official varsity roster. So we were recognized as a school of excellence. And this past fall season, all 10 of our varsity teams earned that award. And we've had last year 2 JV county titles, the field hockey team and the girls tennis team. Here's some of our individual accomplishments. If you didn't know, Journal News doesn't run the Journal News Scholar Athlete of the Week, but we were lucky enough, the County ADs Association, to coordinate with the Palisades Rockland Association, and they now allow us to recognize 6 scholar athletes a year. So we had 6 of those, and then you can see all the other all league and all county and all section, and we, of course, Luke Leali, our diving state champion. So here's our athletic participation, all the numbers. So you can see it's broken down by team and it's broken down by level, and then accumulates at the bottom where you can see where our total numbers of participation overall and then for each program. I'll leave that one up for 50. There's a lot of information on that one. Okay. In comparison, so last year, we had a slight uptick in high school level participants in high school sports, a slight downtick in modified sports. If you don't know, modified just means middle school sports, but that's what Section 1 calls it. But not significant in either way, but here's some of the things that we're doing to ensure that we keep those participation numbers up and strong. So our athletic promotional videos. So one was playing when you all walked in. Thank you, Sharuk. And credit due to Jenny Mermelstein and Michelle Calcaterra, who really did a nice job putting these videos together. We have a promotional video for all 3 seasons that include interviews with the students, interviews with coaches, footage from games and contests, and at the end, if you see at the top where it'll list the online registration, there's even a QR code where they can go right to the website and register their child for sports. The videos are only about 3 minutes long. They're in English and Spanish with subtitles, and we get it out there. Our spring one will be out shortly, and we'll post it on the website. Our sixth grade intramural has been a big hit. We began it in the spring of last year. In the fall, we had nearly 100 students sign up for it. We consistently had about 40 every day. We had to split it into 2 sessions. Just a shout out to Rachel Adams and Kenny Alfonso, who really did an outstanding job recruiting athletes, getting them out, these sixth graders, and getting them involved. If you look at these pictures here on the left, you can see that the football, a number of the football players came down, did some coordinated activities with the sixth graders, and then, of course, talked to them about the sport. On the right side, you can see the cheerleaders also spoke to the kids and then did a performance for them. They also did site visits to the high school. They saw the pool. They saw our scoreboards in the gym and all our facilities. Just, the main goal was really just to get them exposed to everything we have to offer in our athletic program, to try to get as many student athletes out as 7th graders as we possibly can. Okay, One Suffern Day. Now, One Suffern Day was much bigger than just Suffern athletics, and a lot of departments were there, including music, of course, and art, and there were a lot of vendors there. But our sports programs were a big part of it. We had every single program represented there. Most of them had activities that the students could try and that were supervised by either coaches or other athletes. They even had a little scorecard where they could post on each one and get a prize at the end if they tried X amount of sports. I thought it was a really successful day. I thought we did a good job with it 2 years ago. I thought last year was even that much better, and that's something I hope we continue to do moving forward. But again, definitely helping us get exposure to our younger students, the opportunities we have in our athletic program, and our student athletes were a big help. We had to have over 100 student athletes there at that day, in and out, trying to help out with the activities. Unified basketball is something new we're bringing in. It's a spring sport, begins in mid-April and runs till probably just before June. It's a new initiative that our athletic department, we're working in coordination with our special ed department, who's been very helpful in helping to put this together. And it's a great opportunity for students with intellectual disabilities to participate alongside our mainstream students, and I think it's going to be a really rewarding experience for everybody involved. So we're really looking forward to unified basketball this year. Okay, so this isn't exactly along the same lines, but the Positive Coaching Alliance, we have a partnership with them. We've already had 3 presenters come in. We have a 4th presenter coming in March. The focus is really investigating everything that coaches have to deal with in different scenarios and dealing with students and parents and running athletic programs. And in every single circumstance, how can we make it the most positive experience that we can? We did a lot of role play. We had some really good speakers come in. The in-person presentations we had were well attended, over 40 coaches at every single one of them. They also send us webinars so the coaches can watch on their own time. There's a lot of high profile coaches and athletes out there that are part of this partnership. And it's been very worthwhile. I think our coaches really leave each presentation very motivated. They give you tools that you walk right out with and you can bring to the field the next day in practice. And I'd like to continue this partnership next year, continue to bring new presenters in. I think it's an exciting thing that we have going in the athletic program now. Unrelated, but I wanted to throw this in there, our Suffern Sports Hall of Fame. Some people may know one of our board members, Tom Donnelly, happens to be a member of our Suffern Sports Hall of Fame, but we inducted the late, great Mickey Desimone, and you can see the list that we have there and some pictures at the bottom. Just a little shout out to Matt Jones at the middle school, who helped us put all these collages of pictures together, put them up on the scoreboard, so when we introduced them at halftime of our basketball game, you can see on the right the images that we put up. On the right, that was the 90-91 wrestling team, which is Mickey's probably one of his first really great teams. And I think it was a very successful night for everyone involved. Okay, not too long, I didn't think. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Paul.
Actually, Andy, it's not a question, it's a statement. I don't think people realize that the 32 teams that we had who made the academic honor roll, that's huge. That's 32 out of 34. And that's 90 or better. I mean, you have to have a 90, at least a 90 average. And it's not for the entire team, but it's for a percentage of each of the members of the team. And it's just a great accomplishment. And it just shows you that our athletes, besides being an athlete, they're also students. And the time management that they must have that skill is really incredible. Just like the music students do, and just like all the other students, the art students who practice and work and do everything else. It's just a great accomplishment. So we just have some great kids, and I'm not saying it just because Talisha's here, but I will say that really our student athletes really are student athletes. So.
One thing I'll mention, since you mentioned music, Mr. McCarter and Mr. Schwartz and Mr. Kincaid and Ms. Biss are really supportive of the athletic program. So a lot of times kids will come from a game, go to a concert, wear their uniforms right on stage. I'm sure some people have seen this and play their instruments. It's a really nice thing. And that's a real evident show of, okay, hey, we can do this, but we can also do that. So, and our music department's been very supportive, so that's been helpful. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. You specifically said you were going to leave that slide up that had like the number of participants.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I noticed track seemed to be like insanely higher a number. Was I right? Did I catch that right? So do you think if they have no cuts in track?
No, we don't usually. It's
Do you think
usually
that
generally considered a non-cut sport.
could be why? Is that you think likely the reason why that number could be so high? And are there any other no-cut sports? And is there at least one per season?
Yeah, there's definitely one per season. I'd have to look at it to name them all, but there's definitely multiple non-cut sports per season. And track, there's certain sports, wrestling can be like this, track can be like this, where it's kind of a safe haven where kids that don't make the basketball team or don't make the baseball team, it's kind of a place where they can go and be a part of a program and not have to worry about being cut and be part of it. So they definitely, after cuts are over, track numbers definitely jump after that. But there are other sports where they have opportunities that are considered, quote unquote, non-cut sports.
Which
But
is
yes.
great. So thanks for that. At least one per season, I think, is really important.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because we had mentioned the modified track. I remember when Lee Weber was superintendent, we had talked about there really wasn't a lot of opportunities in the winter for girls. So when we got that off the ground, that gave an opportunity for girls. Really, there was only basketball at the middle school level. So now that's a nice opportunity for some of those girls to get into another sport if they don't play basketball. Any other questions?
For everything you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Guccione, for the presentation. It was a great overview of not only what folks have come to know about Suffern, which is our high level of accomplishment, but also the fact that we're looking for new opportunities to get students who might not be so athletically inclined to recognize the value of participating in athletics. And that's one of the great things about Suffern Central's athletic program, right? Like we have exceptionally highly competitive programs, and we have programs that are open to everyone and yet are still highly competitive, exceptional programs. It really applies and attracts a wide variety of students. And I particularly appreciate the fact that, we're expanding our scope of programming for students at the middle school. You mentioned that Mrs. Weber helped you start the modified track program back several years ago. Now we have volleyball as well that's growing. The sixth grade intramural program that you initiated, which is great. And then, of course, I saw the heads nodding in the audience and at the board here when folks nodded that, wow, how great is that we're going to have a varsity program for students with intellectual disabilities to be playing side by side with students that are not challenged in the same way in a competitive sport. Like that gives me goosebumps that we have that going on. And it's just, it's phenomenal. And one last thing I'm just going to harp on, just because I think these are important things to remind folks of, is that anyone who is considering going elsewhere in the jump from 8th grade to 9th grade, leaving the middle school to now go to the high school, but thinking like, oh, there's a shiny private school across the border that might look really attractive here, or another place that, seems like they've got stuff going on. Think about the numbers that Mr. Guccione just talked about, 22 different athletic programs. And we have big programs like track that's really appealing to a whole bunch of students. And yet we still have some really specialized athletic programs like gymnastics. Not every high school has a gymnastics program. Not every high school has a skiing team. Not every high school has a crew team. Like these are prep school-like type of opportunities that folks have here in Suffern. So kudos to you and to the Board of Education for recognizing how important an investment athletics is. It's not just about being competitive, but it's about participating, becoming a better citizen, and a better team player. So thank you very much. I'm going to transition now over to our next presentation. Dr. Castellane, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, is going to go up to the podium and give the board and the public the first broad overview, I think. You can go ahead and make your way. A broad overview of what the budget process looks like and a couple of key things for the board to be considering as we dive in deeper into the budgetary work. Dr. Castellane, take it away.
Thank you, everyone. Just get situated. Good evening. It is hard to believe that we are back here for yet another budget season. So I'm going to take you through tonight's presentation, basically discussing what we've been doing throughout the year. We now have our state runs, our money that's going to come down for the state. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then a couple of challenges that we see on the forefront. Oops. If I get out of this. Thank you. So similar to many other years, here's my budget development timeline. What we started to do this year is we did move a couple of things up. We moved those in-depth building level conversations to happen prior to the start of January. This way we could start talking about what the needs are and what the wish lists are going to be. In January, February, I met with the district level administrators. I discussed some of the building level initiatives as well. And we received the governor's projections. So we started to talk about those. Those came in about a week and a half ago. And as we move forward in my next couple of budget presentations, we're going to discuss the revenues. We'll discuss the expenses. We'll talk about tax levy cap. And then we'll move on to the budget vote, which is May 20th. So you've seen these goals before. The business office, when I came in, we outlined a couple of goals that we just really wanted to make sure that we preserved some of these things, such as Dr. Gunnarsson just talked about, right? We want to make sure that we have the right staffing. We want to make sure that our programmatic, our athletics stay intact. We want to talk about all these different opportunities, whether it be curriculum driven or extracurricular, and make sure that we're providing the best for all of our students. So a couple of the revenue variables that we're looking at this year. The two main ones that I just want to talk about and really put on everyone's radar is one, the foundation aid formula. So as we talked about last year, if you recall, we had our foundation aid numbers come in a little late. In fact, New York State approved their budget after the board had already adopted the budget. So that did create a little bit of a conundrum in our numbers. Just to bring you back, we ended up losing approximately $100,000 between what the projections were and what the actual aid ended up being. And that was really attributed to hold harmless. We were a district that was actually receiving a little bit more money than we did the year before. But what hold harmless does is it prevents any district from receiving less money. So basically what that's saying is we were receiving more money. Other districts were receiving less money. New York State decided to make every other district hold harmless. Therefore, we ended up losing a little bit of money. We were able to rework the budget and tweak it a little bit, and we made it work. So this year, we're definitely looking forward to, and when I show you the numbers, I'm not anticipating having to worry about this year. But I definitely think it's a variable we should discuss. And then the second one is the uncertainty surrounding certain federal grant funding. And more or less, this is our title money, our IDEA money. These are monies that are given by the federal government. And if you saw in the news the last couple of, probably about the last week and a half or so, we did see some discussions that were taking place down in DC on the federal level. And from what we know now is we are going to move forward with planning on receiving all of our federal money. However, we here at Hillburn are ready to pivot should we have to make any certain changes throughout. So it's just a variable that we want to just make everyone aware of. So here's the numbers. So the executive state aid proposal that came out. So as you can see, foundation aid, which is the largest amount of aid that we do receive from the state, we are looking at an increase of about $1.8 million. So we talk about the budget every year, and we talk about CPI increases, and we know salaries go up, the CPI goes up, more or less, and we'll get into some of the other factors that increase. So last year, when we were flat from the year before, it definitely did impact us. However, we were able to stay in and put together a very nice budget. So this year, I'm looking forward to seeing that we do have an increase in foundation aid. Two of the other items I really just want to point out here for the board and for the community members is the BOCES aid. So the proposal right now is around $2.5 million, just over that we're going to receive back. So as you can see, it's a little bit less than what we received last year. I do anticipate this number, based upon what our projections are for this upcoming year, to have that number increase. The way BOCES aid works is essentially, I like to think about it as like a mail-in rebate. You spend the money, and then a year later, you get your rebate and the money comes back. So we do have to build the budget to support all of our programs, but the following year, we will receive a certain amount back. And that percentage, that goes into a formula up in New York State. It's different for every district. We're different than East Ramapo, different than Clarkstown. Every district has a little bit of a different aid ratio there. And then the other thing I want to point out is the building aid ratio, because as you can see, we're seeing a little bit of a decrease right there around $81,000. The way building aid works is when you have a New York State approved capital project, you receive aid on it. So once the project's completed, a final cost report is done by the district, it's sent up to New York State, and then at that point, over the next 15 years, we will receive a certain number, a certain dollar amount. So with that formula, every year, should you never do capital projects, every year that number will slowly decrease until eventually you hit zero. So what I do want to talk about is why I think that number will go up. We had two major projects that were voter approved in the capital project a couple of years ago that through state planning, architectural designs were completed this year. The one big one we have is the RP Connor boilers, which we are just wrapping up. The boilers are running. They're working great. We're just fine tweaking them. Once all the payments go out to all the vendors, we'll be able to work on final cost reports, and I anticipate having that done by the end of this year. And then the other one is our Suffern High School and Suffern Middle School roofing projects. And once those are completed and done, we will also send up those final cost reports. So as long as everything is done in order by the end of the year, we should be able to capture a little bit more aid. And I hope that gap will certainly close, if not exceed the 800,000 mark. So budget development considerations. One of the things I like to show this every year, really just to kind of show you where we are, where our bargaining units, because everyone knows that through benefits and salaries, that makes up the majority of any school budget. So as you can see, we have 6 negotiated contracts through. We have one more, the principal supervisory organization, that is up at the end of this year. So once we have all those numbers, we're able to do a little bit better forecasting because we'll know exactly what those salaries will be over the next couple of years. So obviously things do change through attrition and retirements and hiring new staff. But for the most part, it gives us a good baseline to really forecast a budget. So one of the biggest considerations that we have to really look at this year is our increasing transportation costs. And I do talk about this. I believe last year through one of my later presentations, I broke down the transportation costs a little bit more for one of my presentations. But a couple of things I do want to talk about. One, we've been talking about electric buses. At this point, the state is still holding firm on the electric buses. So we know that is going to be a factor. But for me, with this upcoming year, the second factor really is our general transportation contract. So our general transportation contract is currently with Chestnut Ridge Transportation. They make up, out of approximately $14 million, they make up of just over $12 million in that budget. And that's for our overall budget. So knowing that, Chestnut Ridge Transportation, although they do have a clause where they can renew based upon transportation CPI, which we have done for the last couple of years since I've been over here in Hillburn. This year, they would like to, they are not going to renew, which will force us to go out for a bidding process. So we'll have a request for a proposal that we're starting to work on up in my office, and we hope to get it out. I'm not exactly sure if that will be done completely by the time the budget is, but we'll at least have some good numbers. Now, the one reason why I bring this up is because I do know that there are several other school districts going out for their bids as well. And while I can't speak for certain, I can mention that we're probably looking at a 15 to a 20% increase in our transportation. So if you're basing that off of just over a $12 million contract, safe to say that it's going to be an increase of about $2 to $2.4 million. So this is where I feel the need that I really need to mention this in my first presentation, as opposed to waiting for a later presentation. One of the things that we did last year is we spoke to the board and to the community. We ended up going out for, we ended up putting a couple RFPs out for 9 non-public schools, and we were able to award those contracts. So though I have a pretty good understanding that those 9 schools will be able to continue, and we'll be basing that off of CPI increases. So knowing that factor, I'm comfortable that I can work part of that into the budget. One of the reasons why we did that, just in case you missed that last year, was really to kind of offset the cost of the district, and it was to allow for extra busing within district. So it did free up a couple of buses for Chestnut Ridge to help us out through the restructuring process, and it offset the district costs. So the last piece up there, and I do know this is a busy slide, so I do apologize for that, but is the increase in non-public transportation. So I have a 5-year glimpse up there. In 2020, we had 1,246 applications come into the transportation office. This last year, we had 2,108 applications. So within 5 years span, we're almost at 1,000 more student applications. So I did want to put that out there because looking at those numbers, we see a steady increase, and we'll have to build that into our transportation numbers as well. So budget development considerations. These are all the items that we have zero control over as a district, right? We're always going to pay into the teacher retirement system. We're going to pay into the ERS. We have FICA. We have Medicare. Transportation, I discussed already. Health insurance is going to continue to increase. But mainly what I wanted to point out here is we are going to see some significant increases in BOCES and those costs. But we also have a BOCES bond payment that is now going to start to hit our budget. So last year, BOCES went out for a $50 million bond for improvements on their district. Because it passed, they don't have a tax base that they pull directly from. Therefore, they build the districts back, and that's based off of a per pupil. So the number that is created, I'm still waiting for that number to come in. The ballpark number will be somewhere around $600,000, and we'll be paying that for probably the foreseeable future. So the next steps, we have a couple more wonderful budget presentations where we'll talk about our revenues, we'll talk about our expenditures. Obviously, we'll have the adoption, we'll have on April 22nd. We'll move to the public hearing, and then we'll have the budget vote on May 20th. Are there any questions for the board?
Thank you, Dr. Castellane, for the presentation. You did mention a potential 15 to 20% increase from Chestnut Ridge
Correct.
transportation. So I just wanted to know, and I'm sure we can dive into this in more depth in the next budget presentation. That seems like a rather significant increase for a new contract or for an updated contract. Did they give any rationale for that type of increase for something that high?
So the only response that I received from Chestnut Ridge is that they were negotiating with their all their drivers, dispatchers, et cetera, mechanics. They're all in bargaining units, and they are negotiating this spring. So the response I received was that with negotiations coming up.
Okay, so as far as they've led on, they need a 15 to 20% increase because of contract negotiations. I mean, that's what they're telling you.
That correct.
Okay. All right. I mean, it seems like a rather high amount, rather drastic amount. $2+ million increase to our budget just to cover transportation would certainly, would certainly cause us to have to look at a lot of options within our own budget. So I'm hoping that maybe there's some negotiating to do, or maybe the RFP comes back.
So, yes, and Dr. Gunnarsson and I have this news has recently come to us, but in the short time we've had a couple of conversations regarding possible ways that we might be looking to break up some of our general contract and outsource through different RFPs.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I mean, I know this is new. I know there's not a ton of information, and I know this is really just a preview. So hopefully at the next one, which will be March 4th, right?
Correct.
Hopefully there'll be a lot more information to dive into about that.
Yes, I'll definitely have a couple slides based upon that.
Any other questions for Dr. Castellan? No, I just have a question about private school bus transportation. When is the deadline to apply for that type of transportation?
April 1st.
Okay, so we would know by that time approximately how many private school students we would be transporting and what the cost would be approximately?
Correct. And through the 9 schools that are currently transporting, we have held a discussion with them, and they are going to supply us with their applications for next year, that hopefully a little bit earlier than April 1st. They were going to help us out with that. So we would hope to have a lot more concrete numbers prior to April 1st, but by April 1st, I'll at least know the number of applications that are coming in.
Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Castellan for the comprehensive overview about what the budget process is looking like. And Dr. Castellan and I have spoken a lot over the past week about the Chestnut Ridge situation, and quite frankly, to say that a drastic increase of this magnitude is due to contract negotiations is ridiculous. And I know that Dr. Castellan and I've shared in my communications with the board that we are going to be looking into any and all other possibilities with regards to transportation. Of course, Chestnut Ridge has been a valued partner of ours for a long period of time, but to come out of the blue with that type of increase that is going to hurt programs for our students and have such a dramatic negative impact on the taxpayers in the Suffern Central School District is quite frankly ridiculous. So we will be sharing with the Board of Education our options moving forward, and we are going to explore all alternatives. At the same time, as Dr. Castellan said, our non-public partners have been truly partners in this, and I want to compliment those schools and their administrators for working with us and in good faith sharing with Dr. Castellan that they are looking to renew those contracts at a reasonable consumer price index increase. All that being said, we have a lot more exciting news to share when it comes to programming ideas and what we are looking forward to doing within our schools next year at our next budget presentation. But this is really the big picture, state aid, other significant costs, and what our projections look like. So Dr. Castellan, thank you very much for the comprehensive report.
Thank you, Billy. Good job.
And to conclude my superintendent's report, I want to just take a moment to congratulate Mrs. Lee Weber on two things. Number one, we just learned last week that she is this year's recipient of the TEL Award, which is an award that goes out to leaders as well as teachers in the lower Hudson Valley. TEL stands for Transforming Education Through Leading and Learning. And Mrs. Weber, of all the work that she has done throughout several decades now in public education, is quite deserving of this award. She is certainly an innovative assistant superintendent for instruction. She's always looking for new ideas on how technology can be utilized in the classroom. And these last 2 years, she and a handful of teachers have really propelled themselves into the state conversation about artificial intelligence and what schools should look out for and how schools and students can take advantage of the benefits of artificial intelligence. So kudos to you and congratulations on this award. So this is now a really weird segue, because now I have to congratulate her on the second thing. And just as she's reached and received this incredible award, she decides to retire from the Suffern Central School District. Right? And how, and with the gasp from the audience, Lee, I have to tell you, I have not been here 4 years yet. And I remember when I was coming into the Suffern Central School District, you took such great time in welcoming me and really being the first person to let me truly see the great things that happen here in Suffern. I appreciate your friendship, your leadership, and everything that you've done for our students and our community here. And, I mentioned that you have a couple decades in the education field. We won't say exactly how many, but you started off as a mathematics teacher. You quickly moved to become a math coordinator in White Plains for about 10 years before you went ahead and I think you lived here for quite some time, I believe, right? But you decided to shorten your commute and come to the Suffern Central School District, where you served about, I think, 12 years as assistant superintendent for instruction here in Suffern Central, 2 of which you spent as acting superintendent in probably, as acting superintendent, one of the most difficult time periods for superintendents, which was during COVID. You did a wonderful job. You led the district through COVID, and the things that you did, such as your innovative leadership. I now recall, just in my 4 years here, you implementing a whole new math curriculum in the elementary schools, Eureka Mathematics, really bringing in this concept of engaging students in a unique way through project-based learning. And what that has done to transform teaching and learning in our classrooms is remarkable. You recognized very early on the need to promote bilingual education, not only to get Spanish-speaking educators in our classrooms to meet the needs of our evolving demographic here, but also helped launch the 2-way dual language program at Sloatsburg Elementary and now coming up at RP Connor as well. And then, of course, over the last 2 years, you've been ahead of the curve with implementing the science of reading before it became a mandate through the CKLA curriculum. Just a remarkable job. And that's just what I've witnessed in these last 4 years. The impact that you've had on students, community members, and our district overall has been fantastic. And to see that you're retiring, I know that we're all very excited for you for whatever comes next, but know that we are going to greatly miss you and your impact is going to be forever felt here in Suffern Central. So congratulations. And with all that, have no fear. She's not retiring quite yet. It's not until the end of June, but congratulations. Thus concludes my superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you very much. And thank you so much to our presenters tonight. I know Dr. Castellan, thank you for doing such a great job showing what's ahead. I know it's not always easy to be the messenger of sometimes not good news, but we appreciate that you dive right in and explain what's going on. And thank you also, Mr. Guccione, for describing to us not only the variety of sports that are available, But if I'm not mistaken, we have a number of champions in our sports, and boys swimming and ice hockey, and the girls basketball team, I understand, is outstanding this year. So just not only just like scholar athletes, but really high achieving scholar athletes. And I was thinking on my way over here, Mrs. Weber, that I have been working with you now for almost 9 years between school board and the Reach Foundation, which is like, that went really fast. and truly, you know, with all that time I spent working on Reach grants and your knowledge of the layout of the buildings, the contents of the supply rooms, what's left in the budget, I mean, it really was just of such immense value helping us stretch every single grant dollar. It's going to take more than a moment to describe the impact that you had while you were here. We're going to miss you very much, but I'm glad you're not leaving quite yet. Okay, and we're going to move on now to public participation. This is on action items only. Action items on our agenda tonight of 2.01 through 2.11. Is there anyone who's here to speak tonight just on an action item? Action items are on our agenda tonight. 2.01 starts the professional personnel report. There are 11 items concluding with an amendment to the employment contract for our assistant superintendent of instruction. Are you here for an action item? Okay, there's going to be a second public participation section. That's on any district related business. Okay, we'll get to that in a little while. Okay, then seeing as there are none, I'm going to close that portion of the meeting. Prior to requesting a motion for a consent agenda, are there any items that any board member would like to pull? Okay, no, in that case, I would ask for a motion for a consent agenda to approve action items 2.01 through 2.11. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Hodge. Second. Thank you, Mr. Frazier. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? And are there any abstentions? Okay, very well. Then we're going to move on to 6.01, which is board member comments. Do any board members have any comments this evening? Frazier.
I just want to thank Mr. Guccione for that wonderful presentation. Also, thank Mr. Castellane for his, and Ms. Weber, thank you. I remember when I first came on as a board member, you were the acting superintendent during the COVID era, and you led us through it, and you've been great ever since. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you around. And like they said, you're here until at least the end of the school year, June, so we'll still see you around. But thank you, and we wish you well in your future endeavors.
Any other board member comments? Okay, very good. All right, then we're going to move on to public participation. This is our second public participation section. This is on any district-related business. If anyone is here to speak on any district-related business, please give us your name. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. And please do not mention any district personnel or students by name. Is there anyone who's here to speak on district-related business? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to read because I may be going over my 3 minutes. I think most of you know me. I'm Lindell Duca, class of 1977. I have 2 daughters who went through the district, and I have 4 grandchildren that are presently in the district from UPK up to a senior in high school. I'll have another one in the preschool program at Suffern High School in September. I try to stay active in the PTAs, and I'm a provider in a licensed daycare in Sloatsburg, New York. I've been serving the districts, what I'm going to call mini Mounties, maybe, and the Mounties for over 30 years in my daycare. This includes providing transportation to and from bus stops, UPK, schools, school functions, libraries, and other activities. I need to address our UPK. Come September, I will have enrolled a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, 2 UPK children, possibly 3, a Sloatsburg kindergartner on certain days, and 2 Montebello school children. There could be more in September if I get phone calls. These Mountie families depend on me, their provider, to work with them to provide the care needed for each and every one. So UPK, this September, I need my UPK children at the same location, preferably Sloatsburg. With the new redistricting and bus scheduled school times, locations before and after school care, I can't be at several locations throughout the district as much as I'd love to do that. The "it takes a village" statement in serving and providing for children is true and necessary. Suffern Central has shown pride and is continuing to connect with communities in which it serves. I supported you in your redistricting of our schools with understanding that everything would be equitable in all buildings. When it comes to UPK, that is not so. I understand the UPK process, the lotteries, state regulations and rules. I need to go by state rules too. However, all stakeholders should be looked at and accounted for in dealing with our children, our future. I'm asking for myself and others for consideration, answers, collaboration, which ultimately provide a great start for mine and our mini Mounties and Mounties. I have a lot of questions about the UPK and concerns and comments, so I'm going to break it up into Connor School and Sloatsburg School. Connor School has a full day, 5.5 program. Sloatsburg has 5 hours full day program. Connor School has half a day programs. Sloatsburg does not. Connor School is listed as a pre-K through 2nd grade school. Sloatsburg is listed as a 2nd through 2nd grade school. Connor is district run. Sloatsburg is YMCA run. Connor has Suffern Central's teachers. Sloatsburg has YMCA teachers. Connor School has art, music, etc., which is shown on the videos on the site. And there's no art or music in Sloatsburg. Connor School will be having open houses, and Sloatsburg will not be. Can Sloatsburg do district teachers? Therefore, an extra half hour maybe, or getting art and gym, or hire the YMCA teachers? Also on the form, my parents have been telling me on the applications for UPK in several pieces, it asks about languages spoken or languages that the children have contact with. Does that play a role in placement? A lottery is if needed, according to how many applications are received. Who actually picks how many slots, locations, placements? A late-made decision for parents. Parents will be scrambling to find care and transportation. Parents are confused, especially first-time parents in the district. I've talked to the UPK person at Holborn. She more or less explained how UPK is. Also added, UPK is not mandated. I want UPK. The parents want UPK. Teachers want UPK. UPK is helpful and beneficial for our children. I also spoke to the director of the YMCA. She explained UPK to me. I've emailed many of you, and hopefully I will hear back from all. Thanks for your time. Go Mounties.
Thank you very much.
I didn't know my name, sorry.
Is there anyone else here to speak on district-related business tonight? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Rachel Leibovitz. I live in Suffern for over 20 years. My 5 children have all attended private schools. 2 are graduates and have college degrees. They're adults now. Our middle child, our 3rd child, and 1st son is an IEP student. He's parentally placed in a private school. This is the 2nd year that he still hasn't received transportation for what seems to be no apparent good reason. In the beginning of the year, I was communicating with PPS office and the transportation office, and they told me, well, Mrs. Leibovitz, don't worry. There's another student from Rockland that goes to the same school as your son, and he doesn't have a vehicle either. So we're looking for a vehicle for both of them. I communicated with them back and forth by phone, and every time I called, they said, well, the search is still on. The search is still on. We're still looking for a vehicle. Well, last week, my son starts texting me from school urgently. Am I getting a bus on Thursday? Am I getting a bus on Thursday? I said, I know nothing of it. So I called the other parent, and she said, oh, we're getting a bus starting Thursday. So I once again began calling. I mean, this was continuous, but transportation office and PBS office, and nobody has responded. So I switched to writing written letters, and I've been emailing them to everybody who I've been in touch with. And I have to say, for the past 2 months, I've only gotten the assistant's assistant in each office. Nobody has returned any of my calls. Nobody has returned any of my emails, and I email every other day, and I have printouts of my letters. And all I'm saying is, the other kid got a bus. Just piggyback my kid's transportation off that kid's transportation. And can we work this out? And it's been all sorts of silence. I've written emails. I have left messages. I was told, oh, the person you need to speak with is in a meeting. Please call back in 20 minutes. I set my timer to 20 minutes, and then I just refresh the timer every 20 minutes until the end of the school day. And I haven't communicated with anyone. The only person that picked up the phone again was an assistant of an assistant of an assistant. And I said, well, would you like to take a detailed message? And when I told her the story, she said, and I said, well, in addition to this year, there's a kid that goes to the same school from Rockland that has a bus. Can my kid, that's one bus taking one kid. Why can't it take two kids? Which is what I was told in October. She said, well, and I said, we have deadlines for next year. And next year I want to send my kid to a different school. And right now he goes to school in New Jersey, and we transport him ourselves, my husband and I. And my husband travels for work, which makes it very complicated when he's out of town for a week, because I have other school children to put on the bus. And it takes me 2 hours to go to Teaneck and back. So it's 2 hours in the morning and it's 2 hours in the afternoon. So it's like she said, it takes a village. It takes also 4 hours of your day. It's a lot of driving for a mom who has other children and, all that. So I said, I have deadlines to apply for school for next year, and I need to know, because I can just barely take him to Teaneck, but I cannot take him to Brooklyn. And we like the school in Brooklyn. He's been attending that school summer program, and he comes home so empowered. And, he's grown so much as an IEP kid. And she said, well, the budget hasn't voted yet, so we don't know. Isn't my kid in the budget? My kid has lived in Suffern his entire life. He was born in Suffern. He has always been an IEP student. So I have really good questions. I'm not sure why nobody's communicating with me. The school that I want to send him to next year also has a Rockland County kid attending. These kids live in my neighborhood. I'm friends with the moms. Over the years, we've crisscrossed in different programs where our children have gone to the same program. So there's a kid that goes to the school in Teaneck now that has a bus. There's a kid that goes to the school in Brooklyn now that has a bus. I think this is something that could be worked out. I'm not sure why it's not being worked out and why nobody has responded to my attempts at correspondence. I have copies of the letters if anybody wants to see them.
Thank you very much. And thank you for leaving us your contact information here.
Sure.
Want to bring it up?
Yeah, that's great. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here to speak tonight? Okay, we will close that portion of the meeting then and go to superintendent's closing comments.
I have no further comments except for the two speakers. I will be reaching out to both of you individually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In that case, I will announce our next meeting date is February 19th, which is a Wednesday. Yes, because of the President's Day weekend. So don't come here Tuesday. I mean, you can if you want, but there will be no board meeting. So come Wednesday, February 19th, if you're interested. Bring your crocheting if you like. We have a front row crochet group going on as well as a board meeting, so which is all good. And I would now ask for a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Second. Thank you, Mr. Shapiro. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Thank you very much. See everybody back here Wednesday, February 19th.